My mother-in-law slept on the floor. I was shocked. Then my lawyer husband took powerful action. My name is Darcy. I live in a house with my husband, Carlos, and our daughter, Mickey. Carlos and I met in college and became close friends. I studied design and he studied law. We both joined the same club. After college, I got a job at a design firm, which I really enjoyed. Carlos and I dated for a while, then got married when we were in our early 20s. When I got pregnant with Mickey, I kept working until she was born, but after she arrived, I decided to stay home and take care of her. Carlos and others thought it was a good idea for me to focus on being a mom, so I started working from home. Carlos became a lawyer after passing the bar exam. One day, Mickey said, "Mommy, I'm going to play with my friends. I'll be back before it gets dark, okay?" Life is really great, living with my husband and daughter and doing work I love. But one day, something surprising happened. I was out shopping quite far from home when I saw my mother-in-law, Christine, struggling with some heavy bags. I decided to go over to her. "Hi, mother-in-law." "Oh, Darcy, what a surprise," Christine said with a warm smile. It had been a while since we last saw each other, so I was happy to see her and suggested, "How about we have some tea together?" "I'd love to, but I'm in a rush," she replied. "Oh, I understand. No worries. Let's plan to catch up over tea next time. But let me help you with these bags at least. They look really heavy," I offered. After a bit of convincing, I managed to load the bags into the back seat of my car. They were quite heavy, and carrying 2 of them would have been a challenge. "Thank you, and sorry," Christine said with a smile. It made me feel better that being a bit assertive was okay. Plus, there was something I wanted to talk to her about. As we drove to her home, we chatted about various things. Since it takes about 3 hours and 30 minutes to get to our in-laws' place, we can't visit often, but we always make sure to visit for New Year's celebrations, so I know the way well. "Wasn't it hard for you to carry all of this by yourself?" I asked, finally bringing up something that had been on my mind during the drive. I noticed that one of the bags my mother-in-law was carrying had groceries, while the other had daily essentials and cosmetic items that seemed more suited for a younger person rather than her usual style. "Well, they're just things I needed. I ended up getting quite a bit," she said, looking a bit down. I didn't push for more information and continued driving us to her home. "Darcy, thank you so much for your help. You've been a lifesaver. You can drop me off here. I'll manage to take them from the entrance," Christine said gratefully. "You don't have to do that," I replied. As my mother-in-law opened the door, I placed the bags by the entrance. Suddenly, a sharp voice cut through the air. "About time you got back," my sister-in-law, Katie, said. She seemed taken aback to see me, and her words faltered. I was equally surprised to see Katie, and I found myself unable to move. My mother-in-law looked flustered as she tried to gauge the situation. "Hey, Katie, it's been a while. How have you been?" I said, attempting to ease the tension. "Ah, yeah, it's been a bit," Katie replied. I returned her smile and observed her closely. She seemed a bit disheveled, like she had just woken up. Holding her phone, she appeared a bit distracted. Her interrupted sentence left me feeling a bit suspicious. "I'm sorry for dropping in unexpectedly. I saw mother-in-law struggling with the bags while I was shopping nearby, so I decided to help out," I explained. "I see. I just got back from work this morning. I'm a bit of a mess. Sorry about that. Thanks for helping mother-in-law. I'll take it from here," Katie said hastily, grabbing the bags and heading inside. In a gentle tone, I asked my mother-in-law, "Is everything okay with Katie and the family?" She simply smiled and nodded. "Thank you for asking, Darcy. I'm doing fine. I'm sorry I can't offer you tea." "Don't worry about it. It was nice catching up. I'll come visit again," I reassured her, deciding not to push further. But I couldn't shake off the feeling about what I had just seen. Originally, my mother-in-law was supposed to live with us, but after my father-in-law passed away over a decade ago, my brother-in-law, Brett, had said, "We'll stay in the family home and take care of Mom." Even Carlos, my husband, had been concerned at first. I felt uneasy about the situation, so I decided to bring it up. But it didn't go well. Carlos is really busy with work, isn't he? And his days off are unpredictable. I work nearby, and Katie's parents are close too, but still, my mother-in-law reassured me, "Don't worry, I caused a lot of trouble when I was younger, and I haven't done much for Mom. I want to repay her, okay?" Considering what was said, Carlos couldn't really argue. So, with my mother-in-law's agreement, my brother-in-law and his wife ended up moving into her house. Today, I talked to Carlos about what happened. "Really? That's concerning. I'm a bit worried now." "Maybe we should give Brett a call," Carlos suggested, sensing my unease. After listening to my concerns, Carlos decided to call Brett. "Hey, Brett, it's Carlos. How's everything going?" Carlos greeted him. "Hey, Carlos, everything's good," Brett replied. After some small talk, Carlos steered the conversation toward the topic at hand. These calls usually ended up with Brett talking about how great things were between him and Katie, and this one was no different. "Glad to hear things are going well for you," Carlos said politely. "Yet we're planning an extended vacation next week. Is Mom coming along?" Brett inquired. Well, Mom actually said it's fine if it's just the two of us," Carlos responded. Carlos and I exchanged glances. It wasn't unexpected, considering my mother-in-law's nature, but we did notice. Brett paused for a moment. "In that case, why don't we have Mom stay with us while you're away?" Carlos proposed. "What?" Brett sounded surprised at Carlos's suggestion. I glanced at Carlos, who gave me a reassuring smile before continuing. "We haven't seen Mom in a while, and I think Mickey will be thrilled. I'll reach out to Mom so it's settled," Carlos stated firmly. "Hey, hold on," Carlos interrupted before Brett could respond further. He took a deep breath, his expression serious as he looked at me. This was a chance for us to delve deeper into the situation with my mother-in-law. After that, Carlos quickly finalized the arrangements with Brett. I coordinated with my mother-in-law, and she agreed to stay with us for about a week. "Granny's coming today," Mickey exclaimed excitedly. "Yes, it's going to be fun," I replied. Mickey adores her grandmother, so she was thrilled about her visit. A few days later, my mother-in-law arrived with only a few belongings. As soon as she stepped in, she seemed relieved and bowed her head. "I'm sorry for imposing for a whole week," she said. "No need to apologize. We're glad to have you here. Mickey has been looking forward to it, so please make yourself comfortable," I reassured her. And so, we spent a week together with my mother-in-law. However, I couldn't shake off the unease I felt about her behavior from the very beginning. Before her arrival, I had cleaned up the home office I usually work in to make space for her. When I showed her the room, she immediately said, "Oh, you've set up such a nice room for me. I feel guilty. I'd be fine with just a corner." "Don't worry about it. Please feel free to use the room. I only use it for work anyway," I insisted. But she still seemed apologetic. With the kids off school, I had planned to make lunch for the three of us when my mother-in-law surprised me by saying, "Let me cook. Can I use the fridge?" Despite my insistence that she should relax, she kept insisting on doing household chores. Eventually, I managed to convince her to unwind in the living room while Mickey kept her company. Throughout the day, she would make comments like, "Oh, don't trouble yourself with snacks for me. I'm not worth it," or, "I'm fine with whatever leftovers there are. Cold food is enough for me," as if she was an outsider rather than family. It was hard to see her belittling herself like this when she used to be much more lively. When Carlos came home and saw my mother-in-law chatting with Mickey, I filled him in on her behavior. "I understand. Thanks for telling me. I wish she would see her own worth more. Let's keep an eye on her. It's only the first day, right?" As it got late and we were getting ready for bed, my mother-in-law surprised us again by saying, "I guess I'll use this spot for a bit," referring to the basement floor as a place to sleep. "Mom!" Carlos was speechless. I calmly said, "Mother-in-law, please consider this your room until you leave. Use a blanket so you stay warm." "But won't that be a bother?" she asked. "Absolutely not. We want you to feel comfortable and enjoy your time here," I said earnestly, looking her straight in the eye. Her behavior hinted at the kind of life she had been living with her own family. When I smiled warmly at her, my mother-in-law's eyes welled up with tears, and she finally broke down. "It's been 10 years since I've slept in such a warm place. Thank you." The revelation hit me hard, and Carlos's voice dropped several notches, filled with disbelief. "Mom, tell us the truth. Are things okay with Brett and the others? How's life really been?" My mother-in-law let out a nervous chuckle before answering, "Well, booking might be pushing it, but I have to manage, right? I mean, if they kicked me out, I wouldn't know what to do at my age." Slowly, she started to open up about the harsh reality of her life. It was far worse than we had imagined. She was doing all the housework in that house. Whenever Katie wasn't happy, she would get yelled at. All the shopping duties fell on my mother-in-law's shoulders. She was even covering most of the living expenses. It became clear that her son-in-law and his wife had ulterior motives when they suggested living together, mainly to exploit my mother-in-law's finances. My mother-in-law would only eat after Brett and Katie were done, usually in the unheated basement, leaving her freezing during the winter months. "It's been a while since I've had a meal like today," she confessed tearfully. "I've always been alone, you know." "What? Are you serious?" I was shocked by her revelation. It turned out that my mother-in-law wanted to sleep in the basement because it had become the norm for her in her previous home. Carlos and I were speechless initially. When Brett and Katie moved in, they were kind to her at first. My mother-in-law was happy and thought it was a good idea to live with them. However, as the years passed, their behavior changed drastically. In the beginning, Katie used to cook, and Brett would help with other chores. "I'm so tired, Brett. You work so hard. Let me take care of things today. You should rest," Katie would say. "Really?" "Thanks, Mom," Brett would reply. That was probably the beginning. "I'm really tired today," my mother-in-law would say. "Oh, sorry, Katie. I have plans with the neighbors today," Katie would reply. "What? You're prioritizing them over me?" Katie would retort. "Oh, I apologize." "That's selfish of me," my mother-in-law would say. "No, that's not it. Don't worry. I'll prepare dinner when I get back," Katie would assure her. "This is my room, and this is Brett's room," my mother-in-law would assert. Gradually, Brett and Katie started to manipulate and exploit my mother-in-law more and more. Eventually, she found herself shouldering almost all of the household chores and contributing financially as well. At first, my mother-in-law used what used to be my father-in-law's study as her room. It was a well-equipped space with a bed and other furnishings, and she was happy to have such a cherished space as her own. However, even the study wasn't safe from Katie's interference. One day, Katie suggested, "Let's renovate this old study." "Hold on, Katie. This was my husband's beloved study. Can we please leave it as it is?" my mother-in-law pleaded. "I'm just thinking about your comfort," Katie would insist. "Why are you making me out to be the bad guy?" my mother-in-law would question. "I'm sorry, but I prefer it the way it is, really," she would say. "This room is outdated. It's worthless with all this junk," Katie would argue. Then, intentionally, Katie reached for a piece of glasswork, a music box made of glass, a favorite of my late father-in-law. He bought it during a trip they took together, and it held sentimental value, but Katie deliberately dropped it. "Oops, my mistake. I didn't mean to," Katie would say. "Oh no. The glass is shattered everywhere. It's so dangerous. What a shame to keep this room the same, especially with all this junk. Please don't touch anything else," my mother-in-law would plead. "Who do you think you're talking to?" "Fine, I'll leave the study alone, but from now on, you handle everything in the house. And with all this junk, it's too risky for you to sleep here. You should sleep in the basement." "Any objections?" Katie would demand. In the end, my mother-in-law reluctantly agreed and had to sleep in the basement. I felt like I was going to faint hearing all these shocking stories. At the same time, I was furious with myself for not noticing sooner. "I'm so sorry, Mom. How did I not see any of this?" I asked, feeling guilty. "Don't blame yourself. I was hiding it too. Isn't it awful?" my mother-in-law replied sadly. The reason we never noticed was also because of a scheme by my brother-in-law and his wife. They only gave my mother-in-law a room when relatives visited, but it was empty. No bed, no furniture. And as she dared to speak up, they threatened to destroy her study. They only acted nice when other people were around. We didn't see what was happening because of that. If my mother-in-law and I hadn't bumped into each other that day, this might have continued even longer. The thought sent chills down my spine. "I always wanted to talk to you about this, but that study and that house are full of memories with my husband," my mother-in-law said tearfully. Tears streamed down her face, and I couldn't hold back my own. Our dear mother-in-law had endured this for over a decade. I couldn't even imagine how hard it must have been for her. How could her own family do this? They're heartless, I exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. Darcy, I need to step out for a moment, my mother-in-law said, her voice trembling with emotion. After we cried together, Carlos gently rubbed my back and spoke softly. Don't worry, Darcy and Mom. I'll take care of this. Please look after Mom, Darcy. I nodded silently. Got it. Leave Mom to me, Carlos. I hugged our worried mother-in-law again, soothing her with gentle strokes on her back. Then I turned to Carlos and said firmly, Go teach those awful people a lesson. Absolutely. Carlos chuckled and nodded, then left the house. Later, he called to say he wouldn't be back until tomorrow evening. I shared the news with my mother-in-law, and we all drank warm milk, trying to lift the mood with some good stories. Mickey, who had heard the commotion, looked concerned and joined us. I wanted to replace at least some of the bad memories. Usually, I'd remind Mickey not to stay up late, but since tomorrow was a day off, the three of us enjoyed chatting until we were content. All right, that's enough for today. Mother-in-law, how about joining us for some shopping tomorrow? We can buy whatever you want and eat delicious food. There's a cute dessert place that Mickey loves. Let's have a relaxing day. Just the three of us, I suggested. At my words, my mother-in-law's eyes filled with tears again. She nodded slowly, repeating, Thank you, over and over. That night, we set up an air mattress in the living room and slept closely together, with my mother-in-law in the middle. The next morning, she greeted us with the same smile she used to have when my father-in-law was alive. Good morning, she exclaimed. And just as promised, we all had a fun shopping day. In the evening, we received a message from Carlos saying he had returned home, so we headed back as well. Before going inside, I had one more thing to say to my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law, we're on your side. Whatever is hurting you, feel free to share it with us. We'll always be here for you. And I'm on Granny's side too, Mickey reassured her. She nodded silently in response. Welcome home. Sorry for leaving the house to you. Carlos greeted us with a warm smile. We're back. Everything okay? I asked. Yeah, no issues here, Carlos replied. I had Mickey and my mother-in-law wait in my home office while I walked into the living room. My eyes widened when I saw my brother-in-law and his wife sitting on the floor, their hands trembling slightly on their knees. They greeted me in a soft voice, their faces filled with apprehension. What's going on? My confusion was evident on my face as I turned to Carlos. Still smiling, he said, I haven't taken any action yet. His use of yet made me tense up, anticipating something significant. To get straight to the point, starting today, Mom will be living with us, Carlos announced. I felt relieved to hear those words. Carlos continued speaking, and as he did, I nodded in agreement. So, Brett, do you fully understand the impact of your actions on Mom? And you too, Katie. Do you realize what you've put someone else's mother through in her own home? I can't say it's entirely your fault. We didn't notice it either. But you need to take responsibility for your actions. After all, you're supposed to be mature adults. Carlos spoke passionately. It was the first time I had seen the usually gentle and calm Carlos so angry. I usually prefer not to bring work matters into our home, but this time I'm speaking as Miss Christine's attorney, not just as family, Carlos continued. His tone was firm but controlled. My brother-in-law and his wife responded meekly, yes. After several hours of discussion, several decisions were reached. Firstly, my brother-in-law and his wife would no longer be living with us. They were required to return all the money they had taken from my mother-in-law, along with additional compensation. In consideration of my mother-in-law's emotional attachment to her study and her own home, my brother-in-law and his wife agreed to move out. We forbade them from ever entering my mother-in-law's home again. Upon hearing the decision, my mother-in-law gave a troubled smile. So we're still family, right? Asking for compensation seems a bit extreme, don't you think? She said. Carlos's words caused Brett to nod so vigorously that it looked as though his head might fall off. Yes, I'm truly sorry for everything. Please accept this as our apology, Brett said, looking thoroughly remorseful. After the discussion, Carlos took a deep breath and addressed my mother-in-law. So please accept this, Mom. Let's put this behind us. Brett and his wife will never forget what they've done, and will ensure it never happens again. Carlos said gently. They both nodded in silence. Seeing this, Carlos smiled softly and continued in a quiet voice, "It won't happen again, right?" They both responded, "Yes, yes, never again, absolutely." So the conversation came to an end. Within a few months, we received the compensation that Carlos had arranged for my brother-in-law and his wife. My mother-in-law wanted to give it to us, saying it was because we had helped her, but we refused. She insisted, so we agreed to accept a small amount each month for groceries and let her use the rest. Carlos, what did you say to Brett and his wife? I was curious about that day, so I asked him when we were alone. I said to Carlos. Carlos scratched his head, even though it wasn't itchy. "Don't worry about me losing my cool, okay?" "Why would I?" "You stood up for your mom, and they regretted what they did," I replied. Actually, Carlos had contacted Brett immediately after hearing what had happened. It's rare for me to get angry, but when I do, people say I'm pretty intimidating. I think I really scared them when I called, Carlos said. He told me where he was right away. Although a bit distant, he drove straight to the destination. Upon arriving, he'd immediately confronted the two. I couldn't just let it slide, especially because he's my brother, and I trusted him with Mom. I didn't know all the details, but judging by how scared they both looked, Carlos must have been really intimidating when he was angry, I thought. As they left, they bowed deeply, saying, "We're truly sorry." Well, mother-in-law seems happy, and so does Mickey. I'm happy too. Thank you for standing up for us, Carlos. I'll keep doing my best for our family. Even after everything, it's reassuring to know we can still be a happy family, I said, grateful for my reliable husband and for my mother-in-law, who chose to lean on us. From now on, I'm determined to make up for the hardships by being a devoted daughter-in-law and doing my best in every way.